Hello and welcome back to the Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise Highway to the Zima Zone 4 tournament. We are in the round of 16 and we've got another race for y'all. My name is Rex Raoul. I'm joined at the booth by Nth. We've got another heck of a race coming today, don't we?
We sure do. Sorry, I'm just laughing a bit at these wonderful joke objectives today. 10 out of 10 work on those. But yeah, this is a really exciting matchup between a couple of racers who are relatively new to the competitive community but have a good amount of experience outside of it. Blue Cat was saying the other day in the Discord he's been around watching more or less since the Fabool Gauntlet, which was in spring of last year. In his words saying, you know, after the end of it, my only real way forward was to become the Fabool Gauntlet. So in that way, he's really proven that well because he's taken down, I believe, Direwolf in the last round to get to this point. Direwolf was the number 4 seed at this point in time. But also, speaking of toppling titans in this community, Pushwall got through Flurry in the round of 32 to get here. And he's been around since, 2018, then disappeared for a while, came back recently in the past few months and has really started, pushing himself with this game. So these are two extremely skilled runners, and just if you haven't seen them around the community, around these competitive races that much, they've been here in the background and they're really showing the results in this tournament.
Absolutely, and we've got another race coming in today for them. What do you think of these objectives? We've got Super Cannon and the boss of Lower Badville. They're both in the same place, so that tower key seems to be a really important one if they want to do it, but 4 out of 5 not necessarily required.
Yeah, and I don't know. I actually really like when these objectives double up. I know that's not necessarily a particularly popular opinion because it does take some of the drama out of it in some ways, but I really like when you're incentivized to go in different ways. Like, you wanted to do tower, but you want to do the whole tower, so you're doing it all at once. And so it really just has become that very specific hunt for that tower key, and we're going to be spending a lot of time looking for that, because while you can get through the seed without it, it's nowhere near as likely.
Absolutely, and one of those things, like the big troll play, would be if that tower key is in its vanilla location up at the top of the tower. So, like, doubling up isn't even a possibility. So that could throw a wrench in the plan. If that's how it is, of course, we'll have to play it. How about the start? Looks like we get a starting edge.
I think there's there's more like 3 categories of sea heroes. There's like the average difficulty, there's the really difficult ones like Edward and like that. I really like these ones with like an edge start or even a foo starter like that, where you get a lot of that early power, because it really shows who's good at optimizing a seed. Starting with that Rydia and that hook too, that might be early access to that Leviathan that might be hiding in that Cave Eblin shop.
And that Leviathan has been a big definer of the metagame of this tournament. Rydia's value has shot up with the guaranteed tier of items in that Eblin shop. Has a very high percent chance of it being that Leviathan, relatively speaking. So, yeah, this is actually a really strong start, despite the fact that Rydia seems really weak with just that 30 HP at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and I think that's been one of the main themes of this tournament. Is it's sort of like the redemption arc for Rydia. If you watched a lot of Lolly Ho League, you might have seen Rydia was basically only used as an agility anchor or otherwise used in really rare situations. This has been the real redemption arc for her, as she's sort of turned into one of the most valuable characters you can find early on.
Yeah, definitely. Well, either early or late, because late she can be a target for a slingshot with double XP mechanic that we might talk about later in the seed. But at any rate, it looks like we got a little bit of divergence. We got Pushwall going right into Antlion Cave, where Blue Cat Loach heading right into the Mist Cave. This is not a common looting place, but it's somewhere where it could have some pretty good items.
It's a real interesting play, especially if you're maybe looking for a boss hunt. Finding that cursed ring, probably not necessarily going to be used. You don't necessarily want to curse Edge out of all characters, but it could be a way of getting around some of that agility anchoring later on down the line. But I'm kind of surprised he's not checking the boss here with that. I guess just doing this loot run first.
Yeah, you don't want to reset out after you've done the looting. So if you're going in from the front door like this, I think it makes sense to just leave. It's kind of risky because compared to some other places, the number of chests per the time is a little bit lower. But if you can spike something that is really valuable and your opponent doesn't see it, then that could be a really big help for you against your one opponent.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting thing because while I haven't seen much of Blue Cat's play, I did see Pushwall, the end of Pushwall's last series against Flurry in the round of 32, and Pushwall plays a very, very thorough way around a seed. He will loot a lot of things, really just take a very long, sort of methodical look at it, and still, come in blazingly fast. So looting places like that might be a very good way of getting an advantage over on Blue Cat's side, because while Pushwall is thorough, he doesn't necessarily go to those places that are as far out of the way, like that Mist Cave.
We see Dr. Luge here in the bottom of the Antlion Cave. Going to be a pretty trivial for Pushwall to beat that. Meanwhile, Blue Cat has launched the hovercraft and looks like it's heading over to the Evelyn area. We're going to get a character check. We're going to see who that boss is in the, or we might see who's in the boss spot in the the Rubicante spot, and gonna get a peek at that shop. That Antlion Cave just yielded. Was that a protect ring? I missed it.
I didn't quite catch it either.
Oh, it was a rune ring. Sorry.
Yeah, not a key item either way. Not particularly exciting. Pushwall gonna have that walk out. Blue Cat doing the looting here as well, so probably looking for just enough money to pick up that Leviathan in that shop while he's here, because that'll push him through a lot of this seed, but gonna go ahead and at least get to the end of the cave, possibly drop a save first.
The decent thing about completing the Antlion Cave for Pushwall is it's really important to have Rydia survive a couple of the early fights to get that experience. Pushwall may not have gone to Evelyn yet to get that Leviathan, but it's important that she has enough MP to actually summon Leviathan, because it is 40 MP.
Well, Magus Sisters in that Rubicante spot does not seem like the best possible prize here, but a Rosa is a great prize, and also a D-Mist on Mount Hobb is a great prize at the same time, so two very interesting pickups on each side. We're going to get a bonus key item out of this D-Mist fight.
Yeah, and also a Yang up at the top of Mount Hobbs too. Can be a really nice support character. Has a lot of uses. If you level him up and you get some good gear for him, he can be a very strong fighter. But his HP growth just naturally is very strong as well. So he can be a chemist in certain situations just by nature of being able to provide strong attacks like Big Bangs.
Yeah, and I also think the way Yang scales whenever I see him picked up in a seed scales very heavily off of levels, very heavily off of strength. And so if you find a Yang, you kind of want to find him early on so he's soaking up literally every ounce of experience he can get and hopefully benefiting off of that.
And Blue Cat finding that one trapped chest in Cave Evelyn, the 2 Stonemen. At this level, it's not going to be a very easy fight. So a pretty easy reset, and now can loot and just knows that every other chest is going to be fine. That's a pretty big find off that D-Mist and the Darkness Crystal on Pushwall side, though.
How do you like a probably required Mount Hobbs in your day-to-day? I mean, it's not entirely fully required yet because we don't know where the 2 parts of Forge are, but high likelihood you're going to need to do that fight at some point in time, and I'm pretty glad that it's a Yang up there and not a character that you'd be tempted to just instantly reset out of like an Edward.
Or a duplicate Rydia or something like that, yeah. But, I mean, I think with the fact that it's D-Mist, I don't think people would reset anyways. But, yeah, it is nice that there's more incentive with that Yang, like you want to do it. I'm seeing a lot of this looting on Blue Cat's screen. I haven't seen anything that screams like super important. That rune axe is pretty nice, but we don't have anyone who can use it. Just hoping, I think at this point, that there's enough to sell that's going to equal the cost of that Leviathan summon. I think that's the real key thing here for Blue Cat.
100%, but if not, I mean, what do you do at that point? Do you go and do a bit more looting, come back, really try to get that Leviathan early? Do you do a couple early checks? Because chances are Rydia's not going to have enough MP to summon Leviathan for at least this early bit of the seed. But I think he should definitely have enough here with both that Poison Axe and I think, was that a second Rune Axe, considering he sold one there, or did he not actually sell that?
I don't think he sold it, but he did sell that curse string that he found in the Mist Cave, which is goes to your point that in this situation, like cursing Edge isn't really something that you really want to do.
Yeah, it's really interesting because this Sea Hero flag in this tournament has changed the value of that curse string, and I believe also with the last update to the randomizer, the price of curse string went up fairly significantly too. So the value of selling it is way higher than it used to be, like in tournaments before this too. So it's really interesting seeing that sort of dynamic of, you know, now cursed ring is something you can get rid of. It's not something you have to hold on to because you need to figure out a way around agility later.
Yeah, and it's going to vary from hero to hero and from player to player as well. So it's really interesting to see that. But that did give enough to get that Leviathan summon. Now it's just a couple of levels so that Rydia has enough MP to summon it. And then the rest of the, you know, beginning and really middle part of the seed is going to be pretty easy with that Leviathan on there as long as it can be summoned. If this is a hook route, that Leviathan is going to really come in handy against those Mega Sisters.
Absolutely, and you know, it's always good to have something to make that hook route boss a bit less daunting, because it can be daunting pretty much no matter what it is unless it's a free boss. So anything early on is a real huge benefit, and we still have a lot of this overworld left. There's still a chance they don't have to go down there because we've only really seen, I guess technically 2 key item checks off of the 5 available right at the start.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's definitely prudent to check some of the other overworld checks before committing. And now, interesting, Pushwall, having the knowledge of there being a Yang in the scene, sees cat claws for sale in the shop in Evelyn. So already we had enough money with the early looting to get the Leviathan summon. So now this extra looting in the cave might be able to afford a cat claw if Pushwall wants to improve Yang's attacking power as well.
I think I saw a Thunderclaw there as well, which is another potentially big benefit. We've already gotten rid of one of the bosses out of the pool that Thunderclaw is a really big benefit against in Dr. Luge, but we still have plenty of good Thunderclaw bosses. Thunderclaw kind of often hear that it's considered the best elemental claw, so maybe he'll pick up one of those as well, unless it was a Thunder something else and my eyes are deceiving me. I didn't quite catch the icon on it.
Well, lucky thing, the Thunderclaw costs a lot less than the Cat Claw too, so if affording that is going to be a lot easier. Another thing that it's really useful for, especially with Edge in the mix, is if you're going to be stealing sirens off the alerts in the Tower of Babel, then with the Thunderclaw, Edge can almost certainly one-shot the alert afterwards. That's always comforting to have.
Yeah, definitely. Any little benefit you can find like that is going to make a huge difference in the seed, and I'm really, you know, they're kind of following in each other's footsteps a little bit here. They've kind of switched places, and I think this is going to be one of those races that comes down very heavily to both execution and the sort of order of events, because I kind of think that both of these runners are a little bit similar in how they approach a seed. And so because of that, that bit of knowledge advantage is going to come in really heavily later on down the line if Pushwall is able to push it properly.
Now it looks like Lucat finally going to check that boss in the Mist Cave. We're going to see what it is. Going to be hoping to find that Wyvern, but no, it's just the Baron Guards. Easy reset out of that. So now it's going to go in and collect that Darkness Crystal.
Yeah, he's going to be very happy when he sees it, and I'm wondering, based off of the fact that he went to the hook route basically immediately at the start of the seed to check the character and like that, if he might be tempted to go up to the moon very, very quickly and check the character there, possibly see who's sort of lurking in Cave Bahamut, grab the loot there too, and see if he can get an advantage out of it.
Yeah, a little bit more knowledge with the seeing the boss sprite in Cave Bahamut, knowing what you might be up against when you're talking about objective number 2, because there's some bosses that are like that's such a unique spot in some bosses that are really hard in other places become a lot easier there, and certain bosses that are really gimmies in other places become deathly hard. So we're hoping to see a boss with high physical attack for the viewers to make the runners struggle, but the runners are definitely going to try to avoid bosses that have a high physical attack, because that punches hard.
Exactly. And who doesn't love a deceptive Dark Imp fight occasionally, where you think you're going to get through it really easily and then suddenly they just take 3 punches and you're down to 1 party member left? Yeah, really exciting. But this Asura fight here at Fabul should be a pretty quick one on Blue Cat's side.
Yeah, with Leviathan in the mix, that makes things a lot easier. There was the Rune Axe that we saw, but no one to use it. Ashura is a mage-type enemy, so that Rune Axe would deal 4 times damage to Ashura, but I'm going to rely on the Master of the Sea to one-shot Ashura, and well done there, and we're going to get another key item check very shortly.
Yeah, this reads so far to me as a seed that has very good early power, so I'm not too concerned about either runner having a particularly difficult time getting through any of this. So I'm really interested in seeing the ins and outs of their execution here, as we do see a Twin Heart from that Fabul, which is probably not what Blue Cat was looking for, but it's probably what we were looking for, because who doesn't love a music check?
And that's one of the things. I know that there's a lot of runners who try to avoid the Twin Heart, because it really is a long sequence to go down there. Right now, the runners don't have access to the exit spell, so it'll be a long walk out. There's a cutscene that you have to sit through. But if you don't find the the magma key before then it still might be worth it to go there instead of having to go down through the hook route.
Absolutely. I kind of think that, especially where we have the K-Summon flag off, it's made that K-Main flag all that more prominent in terms of where things can be. And I feel like that kind of makes it even more tempting to keep checking everything you can before going down the hook, because it's got that little bit higher chance of paying off for you. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a music check if they don't find a magma key elsewhere, but I think we're kind of hoping that there's a music check and they still don't find a magma key.
I'm with you there.
Yeah, Pushwall through that Asura already, so gonna get his harp as well. We'll see where they go from there, because I kind of feel like both runners might be a little bit disincentivized for Mount Ordeals, but I wouldn't be surprised if either one of them goes for it.
I think one of the biggest incentives for Mount Ordeals is always going to be that objective number 1 when there's a boss hunt in the mix, and there always is in this flag set with that Wyvern. There's 3 bosses up there, so that's 3 potential chances of finding that first objective. And with the magma key still around, and what you just mentioned about the higher percentage of K-Main spots having key items, Mount Ordeals is a spot with that K-Main. And I would say it's even higher because we already saw that Antlion Cave yield just a rune ring, so we know that's not a key item. That means that's 1 less non-key item spot in the mix. I don't think I said that right, but I think you get the gist of it.
Absolutely. It is really important to get all those sort of zonks out of the pool early on. As much as it might be a bit frustrating to not get progress early, it kind of helps you plan a little bit in ways where you know that no matter what you do, it's going to pay off. And it kind of just comes down to what you want to do versus maybe, worrying about whether anything you might be doing later might be a bit more of a gamble because of that. So we are going to see Blue Cat go up Mount Ordeals here. We'll see what Pushwall does. I feel like if Pushwall wanted to, he might have the power to push through that Baron in check as well. So he does have options at this point.
I think with Edge, you almost always have the ability to go through Baron in. But with having Leviathan helps even more. Now this is neat. I think Blue Cat's going to try to avoid using Leviathan against this Flagon fight here in the first spot, so that you don't need to like heal up Rydia in between the fights and saving that powerful Leviathan for the second one. But after the recover, it can't be done. It looks like you just want to make sure that you get it taken care of.
Yeah, that's a bit probably disappointing on Blue Cat's side, having to burn that Leviathan, but at the same time, Baigen being there and not at the, Cave Bahamut spot is a huge bonus because Baigen hurts. And to answer this question from chat on why wouldn't you check Ordeals where it's 3 boss checks is because it does take a long time. There's a fairly long cutscene up there. You probably are going to want to check Baron in at some point in time anyways. You might as well check those and see if either of those are Wyvern, and then go up Mount Ordeals if you don't have something that's going to get a power boost like a Tella or a Cecil out of going Mount Ordeals right away.
Pushwall making that other choice, going to the Baron in, probably being a bit disappointed that Mom Bomb is the boss in the first spot here. This spot known for having low HP, but wherever Mom Bomb is, gets a big XP boost or HP boost. So not being able to sit through it, and that explode still does quite a bit of damage. Now trying to take care of these bombs as quickly as possible. The lucky thing is with Edge as the hero, the second spot is very fast, and Edge is going to be able to just get turn after turn after turn, unless it's another weird fight like Mom Bomb. We'll see.
I feel like, there's a sparkle. Which one is it going to be? We got a 1 out of 5. That is Plague, which that's an interesting boss to see at this spot from time to time.
This is one where if it turns out to, like, if it looks like that count might be going down a little bit faster than Pushwall wants, having that Rosa be dead from the explode could turn out, but Leviathan's enough. Leviathan's enough. This is a Leviathan meta, isn't it?
I'm loving Leviathan meta. Maybe I'm a little bit on the strain side as far as commentators go, but I like these things that make the early game a bit easy because I feel like it really pushes our runners even harder than something difficult in a way. It's like the puzzle solving is a skill, but there's another set of skill entirely out of just doing relatively easier fights very fast.
I think with the C maybe flag that we've got in this thing, we see both of the kinds of seeds. Like, we've got this one where we've got high power in the beginning of it, and so getting through the early bosses isn't going to be that difficult, but execution and knowledge is key in these. And there's other ones where, you might end up with that Porum Edward start and all duplicate Porums everywhere that you go. And so you've got to just struggle and use all of your wits in order to get past some tough early bosses. And we're seeing both of those in this event, and I think that's what's been the best part about this flag set.
Absolutely. And speaking of good bits of knowledge, Pushwall finding that Earth Crystal there and the Baron Inn, that might actually push him away from Mount Ordeals. It looks like he's considering Ordeals, but it looks like he's going to go up and maybe check the Treasury. And you know what? I think here you maybe check the Treasury, swing up to Twin Harp, and then come back and do Earth Crystal as well, and sort of bundle all that together while you got that chance to be efficient. Meanwhile, a pink tail over on Blue Cat's side, not quite as exciting.
Wait, that's Treasury!
All right, so we've got a mini Treasury check here. This is early in the game, so looting this little one could get you a little bit of extra money for buying things. And now we're going to go to the big one, which generally has the better loot, and we're going to go ahead and rate this, see what we choose as our number. We're really looking for Hanzo Steel, I think, is the best thing that we can find.
Crystal armor isn't bad. That's a big chunk of money. And Ninja Hat, not bad either. A Siren, probably the best thing out of there, but I don't know.
There's a Protect Ring as well.
It's good, but it's not really exciting. I give that like a solid 6 out of 10 so far. It's like a lot of that is stuff for characters we don't have yet.
Yeah, like that White Spear with no cane in sight. But I think like 6 or 7 seems about right, with a possible 8 depending on what characters we get. Like if we get a Kane, I think that pumps set up quite a bit. And don't underestimate that ninja hat. That's a pretty big pickup.
Yeah, definitely, especially with this edge hero. Now, with the Sea Hero flag, all of your agility is, of course, based around that hero. So anything you can equip to that hero to sort of adjust that agility to one of the breakpoints you want is going to be good. And I feel like Edge is one of those ones where you usually want to increase his agility to the next one as opposed to trying to bring him down with that cursed ring. So that ninja hat is actually a really, really good pickup for that, because I believe that does give a bit more agility.
Yeah, I believe it's +3 agility, but at any rate, it is a little bit of a buff to that. Other things that you might be looking at would be like crystal rings, or in a pinch, a cat claw can boost his agility too. So there are things out there for Edge for that purpose, and finding one of them in the Treasury might end up being a big thing. Looks like Blue Cat's going to be the first of our runners to cash in that Darkness Crystal Head to the Moon. Going to check out the character on the lunar dais.
Absolutely, and they've had access to this one for quite a while, so he's just sort of the first to flinch on it a little bit here almost. I don't want to say it that way because it makes it sound like he's making a not as good choice. It's a fine choice. And a Palom's a pretty good choice too, especially when you're looking at Pushwall's side, and right now he's probably gonna look for something to replace that Edward. Sorry Edward fans, this is not a seed in which Edward can be set up to succeed from what we've seen so far, so he's probably going to be saying goodbye pretty shortly and probably will never get picked up over on Blue Cat's side.
Yeah, this is an interesting one with the Palom in the party. I think this is like you've got the option of trying to go for like some kind of reflect strat if you want, but you also have the power of Edge and Yang on your team. This might be like a hybrid strat because the goal of the game is always to defeat Zemus, and so that battle is always going to be in the minds of the racers. And so finding a squad of characters and what you're going to be doing for that fight is something that's going to be in the runner's mind whenever it comes to what characters they keep and ditch.
And I think what would be on my mind at this point in time with that Palom would be, do I leave that Palom alive for fights right now? Because we don't really need him with the Leviathan like that. We already know that we have access to a possible slingshot, but on the other hand, you have an Edge. You're probably going to want to go for Siren, so you're not going to necessarily be setting up a slingshot to begin with.
Yeah,
so
that's the thing.
Kind of weird.
Okay, a couple things of note on Blue Cat's side. Checking the boss, it's a Pale Dim. That is a pretty scary boss in that cave for objective number 2, because that is a very punchy boss in a very punchy spot. But some really good pieces of gear, a black shirt, which is going to be good for either Rydia or Palom, and a heroin robe also found in here. So Archer Rosa is definitely on the table as well. Meanwhile, Pushwall in the Tower of Zot finds the Dark Elf. Not too much of a problem dispatching that evil elf, but about to get those character checks and the second boss, another key item check. So this is a lot of information that both of our runners are getting right now.
Absolutely, and one thing that's not as noted about that heroin robe too is if you find like a life staff, you can basically eliminate that spell casting penalty and make a very fast Rosa too. So even beyond the like early game benefits of now Rosa can fire arrows and they really, really hurt, you have that other possibility there. But we are going to see a duplicate Rydia, and we are going to see that it is Calcabrina down in that Golbez spot in Dwarf Castle when they finally get underground.
Yeah, I love a heroin robe on a white mage to get an early berserk or an early blink off. Anchoring is going to be a little bit different with Edge. It's a super fast character in general, but I think it's still going to be enough, especially in the early time. Is that another duplicate Yang now? So no new characters for Pushwall. That's got to be a bit disappointing.
A little bit, and it's a big question of if you get 2 characters that are duplicates in Earth Crystal, are you tempted to just go up to the moon and check that moon altar to try and replace, again, that Edward? I don't want to feel like I'm ragging on Edward. He's not quite as bad as people make him out to be, but he's also definitely the weak part of this party because, again, we just don't have anything for him, even if we were trying to make him work here.
Yeah, I think a Dancing Dagger is the best we've got for him right now, which is pretty good, but it's running out of its usefulness as we've getting past the really early game spots into those mid-game boss locations. But as I mentioned, the runners are always thinking of that final fight when it comes to party composition. And Edward just doesn't really, with not being able to buy J items in shops, there's no Edward strats anymore where he can hide and throw up star veils and do reflect strats. It's just not happening now. So his usefulness goes down quite a bit. We also don't have the spoon flag on, so there's no super weapon for him. So, yeah.
Yeah, he's not even the hero in this one. It's the other Edward who got the spotlight this time. And only a defense sword for Zot. That is not a very good tower. That Earth Crystal is a little bit haunted today.
Yeah, that was a trolley crystal. You got the decent stuff out of the armory, but that's the best thing that the Earth Crystal yielded. But it's one of those things. Now the question is, like, we've got music, and other than that, this is a hook seed unless you want to go and check spots on the moon for the magnet, because that is something that's available to our runners right now.
I gotta think that wanting to try and find a moon play would be a very, very big gamble here. And while it might pay off, the downside of it might be a little bit too great if you spend a lot of time running down that moon and can't take any of the bosses down there. So I kind of expect we'll see the Twin Harp first, because the other big gamble is if you just go down the hook route gambling that the Magma Key isn't at Twin Harp and then the Magma Key is at exactly Twin Harp, that's a real big problem for you when you get to the rest of the race. And a Sylph available here in Troya is pretty nice though. Or not Troya. Where is Pushwall at the moment? I sort of lost track here because Blue Cat's in Troya.
Yeah, this might be Baron. Yeah, I don't remember either.
If I'm right and he is in Troya, then he is in Troya.
It is Troya.
Okay, so I'm
We're
not.
both in Troya.
I'm fine. I'm fine here. I let myself get in my own head there, and I was completely wrong.
I think Sylph is an interesting purchase because I think in general the value of Sylph has gone down considerably in this flag set because of well, first of all, we don't have the Sylph glitch on, so it does actually cost MP to use it. But that's kind of the minor thing. Really, the existence of that Leviathan summon so frequently, and specifically in this seed, both of our runners have it. That's just such a more powerful summon. Now, there still are situations where the Sylph will be useful, like if there's a high HP CPU. Sometimes, if you don't want to deal with the Globe 199s, having a Sylph which can get through the wall and still deal significant damage to the CPU is nice. But in general, the Leviathan does most of what Sylph can do better.
Yeah, I think honestly, in terms of Sylph, on some level, what I think of is it's something that's a real good benefit over Leviathan if you don't already have a white mage, because you can use it for the heal that it gives, because it basically steals HP instead of just dealing damage. And so with this Rosa here, the value goes down even more than everything you just added on to that too. So it's kind of like, it's a good pickup still, but there's the question there of, okay, if Blue Cat finds it, is he going to spend the money on it that Pushwall spent on it? And what's that going to do for the rest of the seed, too?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. This might mean that Pushwall is not really looking to change characters very much either, because if you're going to be committing that much money. So that might get a little bit of an insight into the thoughts about how this seed's going to progress. But I think it's time to be quiet for a little bit, because we all have to take some time every now and then to listen to DJ Spoonie B's Rockin' Tunes.
Well, for those of you wondering why that was so quiet for play online music, that's what we got out of the harp there. My memories of play online music are the first time I loaded it. Oh, there's that magma key. There is that magma key. 100% this twin harp was an excellent idea on Pushwall's side. And so now the question becomes, does Blue Cat Loach go over and end up checking that twin harp after this tower check that he's in at the moment? Because if he doesn't and he goes down that hook route, that is a huge advantage to Pushwall here.
Yeah, a couple interesting tidbits there. The fact that Pushwall went to the Tower of Zot first meant that he could exit out of the Cave Magnus, because completing Tower of Zot is how Rosa learns exit. She doesn't learn it any other way. Also, was using some smart tactics to try to get through it as quickly as possible, using that Drain Spear on Mylon at the end to finish it up. Just making sure that you get through that fight as quickly as possible, because it is a long cutscene. It paid off big time with that magma key, though.
Absolutely, and I would say that at this point in time, we gotta assume that Blue Cat is probably going to go down and check that twin harp afterwards too. If he doesn't, this is going to tilt fairly heavily in Pushwall's side, at least for the immediate future. Obviously, anything can change at any point in time because the moon's on the table and underground's on the table, and both of those, which one you go for is gonna change quite a bit. So we are going to see Blue Cat heading back up to Troya, so it looks like he's going to get this Magma Key too and sort of follow in Pushwall's footsteps here.
Looks like Pushwall is going back. This can't be a dip underground. This is going to be, there's something in the shop that he wants, that he saw earlier and couldn't afford. We'll see what it is that he wants to buy. And it is those cat claws.
And that's really impressive memory there too, because I would not have remembered that that cat claw was there. And Pushwall came here before, but did he come here before or after he got the Yang? Am I getting my seeds crossed here?
I think you got it mixed up. I believe Blue Cat went in first before having knowledge of Yang. Well, Pushwall went to Mount Hobbs first, so had Yang. So it might have been the knowledge of Yang might have made those a little bit more visible the first time Pushwall checked the shop rather than Blue Cat. That's not to say that Blue Cat won't go back down. We see the equips for Pushwall's edge being double assassin dagger, which isn't really all that impressive. So having a big stack, or at least a stack of things to dart, makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely, and now we're going to give you another quick reprise of that play online music. So it's time to have some load up time for Final Fantasy XI and make sure all those files are intact.
We saw a lunar sparkle in the first spot of the dwarf castle over on Pushwall screen. Turned out to be the D-lunars, so that Wyvern is still on the large, or still at large. I combined on the limb and at large. And then we knew Calbrain was in the second. The character being a duplicate Edward is not something that they're interested in. And Blue Cat now has his magma key, so it's going to be joining Pushwall Underground very shortly.
Absolutely. And one thing that we saw over on Blue Cat's side that we didn't really mention when Pushwall was going through that fight too is that spot at the bottom of Twin Harp, one of the other downsides to when you have Rydia as one of the biggest powers is that you can't really use magic against that spot as easily. It's got really high magic resist, so Rydia not quite as useful there. But speaking of useful, Pushwall just found a pan hanging around Luca's neck there.
Always nice to find that before you make your first dip into Sylph Cave. Now, when you go down there, not only will you meet Yang, but you can whack him on the head with a frying pan. And that means when you go back to Fabul, you can get 2 potential key items off of Yang's wife, Sheila.
Absolutely, and when the only other thing open to them underground at this point being that Keyless Tower, which again, thanks to objective number 4, destroy the super cannon, even though Keyless Tower, like the top of tower, is an objective, they don't want to do. Finding that pan and giving yourself another 3 possibilities before you have to even bother thinking about it is a real big benefit right now.
Noted that Pushwall was rocking the double assassin dagger. That might be a part, like we're seeing Pushwall still doing some aggressive looting. Like a lot of the chests out here might be just looking for anything to improve Edge's firepower before that stack of ninja stars he bought runs out.
Yeah, and this was something that we saw in Pushwall's last series as well, is he will keep looting throughout most of the entire seed, and what sort of strikes me about him as a player from watching him is that he is really, really good at maximizing the value of the items he finds. So I wouldn't be surprised if we just see him basically loot all the way until almost the end, and it seems to be paying off for him in this seed as well. Meanwhile, over on Blue Cat's side, it looks like he's going to quickly scramble an egg, maybe try and get a few more levels onto that Palom before he does anything else. And we'll see what happens there. That might be one of those things that give him a little bit of a push and sort of push him a bit closer to Pushwall, because at the moment he's a little bit behind.
And Pushwall got paid off finding ninja swords in the shop in the Feymarch. Had enough money to afford one of them. Still keeping and a tiara, very nice gear too. Might be holding onto that defense sword in case a Kane or Cecil shows up. There's also a lightsaber. I don't know if he sold that, but the defense sword, keeping that is a little bit, either Cecil or Kane can use it, so I could see selling the lightsaber, keeping the defense sword, then either one of them shows up, and you've got a great weapon for it.
Absolutely, and now he's going to be heading his way down into Sylph Cave. Meanwhile, I think Blue Cat's still going ahead and just going to use up all these sirens that he has from that starter kit right now and really give that Palom a big boost early on, which tells me that if he's burning all of his sirens now, Blue Cat is happy with this party. He's going to stick with it probably for the rest of the seed at this point in time. I'm not even sure if he ditches any character, if even say a Cecil shows up, unless he has a real good reason for doing it. So I think that he's going to be looking to just carry this through. Meanwhile, Pushwall, still kind of looking for that fifth character to round out his party, does not know that Palom is up on the moon.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with Blue Cat's play if the plan is just to stick with this party. I think this is a very serviceable party to take to the end game. We got a couple bruisers, we've got a trio of spellcasters, and we've got good magic that can cut through reflect as well. We've got AoE, we've got single target. This is all just good stuff. I like this squad quite a bit.
I kind of view this as like the Zemus Zone 3 style of party, where we saw hybrid strats quite a bit throughout a lot of that tournament when it wasn't like low-level strats. This hits that exact same zone for me. We're going to see what these Sheila checks are here, and it looks like number one is going to be that pass.
We also get the rat tail there. I will also add that with Edge in the party, like stealing sirens is generally going to be. I think I wouldn't be shocked, but I would expect that the runners would want to steal sirens as their grind in this. And with siren grinds, I think that kind of makes hybrid strats a little bit better than full reflect. Because you don't necessarily need to get quite as high. If you can get one of your casters up, like if you can get Palom up to Nuke, you don't really need to get Rydia up there. If she can do level 3 elemental magic as supporting in that can do a decent job too. But we'll see what happens if they do want to get all of the casters up to White or Nuke, because that's the most powerful, but it does take quite a bit of time to grind Rydia up that high.
Absolutely, and to answer a question in chat, did Push miss the ninja swords at Dwarf? No, Push found ninja swords in the Fey March and also has them. So at that point in time, and hey, that rat tail is half a forge, so now we're on a single key item hunt, and if it's that tower key, then we're pretty good in terms of shape. We're just looking for a wyvern at that point to seal us out, but if we get both of those, then that wyvern might not even be required at this point.
It looks like it might be keyless tower time. This is Pushwall hoping that the tower key is either here or they don't see it, because running back up the tower later does not seem ideal. But Blue Cat also getting that same idea. We're going to see simultaneous tower climbs here. Going to also be interesting if the runners decide to, if they want to steal some sirens while they're here as well.
Yeah, I think Pushwall is pretty heavily indicating that he's going to here, healing up that edge a bit, not healing up anyone else, which tells me that he wants to just be able to KO the rest of his party so that Edge's turn comes back around quicker, less menuing, and just really get that steal down as he is opening chest. Does find a Bacchus, which is a nice little bonus there. Only one, not like hugely game-changing, but any little bit helps.
Well, when you only have 2 Berserkers in your party, you don't need a ton of Bacchuses either. You also have Rosa who can cast Berserk, so that's nice. And finally finds that alert, and the sneaking is beginning. Sneak, of course, being the steal command in this game. So, yeah, knocking out everybody else so that Edge can go, having Edward unhide so that he can get knocked out as well.
Evil Wall at top of tower feels a little bit like a rough time, because this spot has a lot of HP to chew through.
Yeah, this is where cracking those sirens that Blue Cat did earlier is going to come in handy, because that's going to add a lot more firepower with this Palom on the team too. So I think that's going to really help get through this. We've got the Berserk on now, has a Ninja Sword Edge, I believe. So yeah, I think with that, and also Evil Wall, with the especially after the little mini grind, doesn't have the physical attack that's quite as scary as it could be in other places. It is still a bunch of HP to cut through, but I don't think he's going to have too much more.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm more worried about Pushwall's side, really, because not only does Pushwall have less levels at the moment, but Pushwall has that Edward still. And again, I don't want to make it seem like I'm harping on it. No pun intended there, even though it is an excellent pun. But that Edward's not going to do anything in this seed specifically, just because we have not gotten absolutely anything to really make him useful at this point. And so because of that, that's going to be one less character to chew through that HP, and that might get a little bit sketchier over on Pushwall's side.
Yeah, it could be, as long as Leviathan can be summoned, and this might be a situation where that Sylph that Pushwall got could come in handy. If the HP totals on some of the characters run a little low, you can throw out the Sylph and still be doing damage while healing, especially if you want Rosa to do things like archery or using like Berserk or something. You can still get some healing on the side if you think that's necessary.
I did not catch what the item was out of that trap chest as well, so that is an interesting thing. One more thing of note too is you look at the key items too, and with that 10 key item bonus, with the pass not counting, by the way, if you're not used to counting it and you're watching the races at home, he's at 9 key items. So now that we've seen that that's the Luca key over on Blue Cat's side, this will give him 10. So he could just go do his grind at any point. I think he's probably going to try and look to replace that Edward before he does. But he's already in shape to do his grind, where Blue Cat has quite a bit of road left to go here.
Yeah, we see Pushwall. I don't know if it was forgot to do it. Re-equip the Assassin Dagger rather than the Ninja Sword. Might be using the Assassin Dagger because the Assassin does give a bit of an agility boost, so might want to swap to the Ninja Sword in battle. We'll see what happens when the Evil Wall battle begins over there. But Blue Cat now getting out. And another kind of controversial place is that sealed cave. We'll see if Blue Cat wants to go to the sealed cave and check that Luca key, see if that yields anything, or if it's Moonbound time now. We've got things to do. There's also Dwarf Castle that Blue Cat hasn't done, and looks like that's the place. So Blue Cat's going to get his pan.
I think that calculation is going to be interesting on Pushwall's side, because Pushwall has not done Mount Ordeals yet, which is where Blue Cat got that pink tail from. And the question on my mind is, if you're pretty much done with checks down here on the blue planet and you're looking like you might have to do a moon play, I feel like you kind of go up Mount Ordeals, and while it will be quick, that'll probably equalize things. And so unless there's something in that Luca cave and that Blue Cat now has access to from that top of tower, yeah, that might sort of equalize things a little bit once we get there.
We'll see that. This might be fade early, fade always on the Mount Ordeal play for Pushwall as well. So we'll see if even, because we haven't seen a Cecil, we haven't seen a Tella. Those are the characters that if they're in your party, you really want to complete Mount Ordeals for. Lacking them, there's a lot less incentive. And we know that it's just the pink tail. So it really, and there's no Wyvern up there. So it's not going to be a big deal if he does continue to fade it. It might be his play. He's got the Sirens now to grind. So, and he's going to have 10 key items. If he goes to the moon and sees that Palom, he might just think like, I don't need to do Mount Ordeals at all. Let's do everything else. And if that's where it is, then I might just lose. Because sometimes that's what it takes when you decide to fade a location. Excuse me, by the way.
Absolutely. And one of the other interesting things I think about that is, we have the pass in hand already. And when you have that pass in hand, I feel like if you're going to go to the moon, you want to be able almost to complete the moon at that point in time. And so Pushwall might be thinking, okay, I can probably get through this moon with this grind. Maybe I'll check the character, but at the same time, I'm almost wondering if, since he hasn't gone to the moon yet, he might be tempted to just do his grind beforehand and then try and get through that entire moon once he goes up there and just say, you know what, I am fine not having that character check here.
Well, I would agree with you, except for the thing that you've been harping on for so long, that Edward in the party. And there's a character check, a free character check, outstanding for Pushwall right now. So I find it hard to believe that he'd do the grind before checking that character. He could prove me wrong, though. He could prove me wrong.
We will see here very shortly, based off of which way he flies, and it looks like he is going to go back up. The question is, where is he going from here? Is he going to go to Ordeals? Is he going to go to the moon? And it looks like Check the Moon character is indeed the play here.
Yeah, I think this is really good for Pushwall. Going to see that Palom and going to be able to grind him up with those eggs. Eggs or... there's a couple of options. You could do Warlocks. You've got a Heroine Rogue Rosa who can cast Mute on the Warlocks really quickly. So that's an option as well. I don't think Gold Dragons are really ideal right now with this party, but we'll see what Pushwall decides to cash in those Sirens for.
Yeah, we don't have great access to stock. We don't really have much dragon killing equipment, so I've got to think that's a little bit off the table at this point. I mean, the only problem with these parties on both sides is that this is definitely one that you want to do a full grind for. If this was like Oops All Berserkers, if we had a Cecil in this party, I would say, you know what? Go up to that moon, do Behemoths, and then just... if you have enough gear, you can probably just keep clearing moon bosses from there and maybe even call it a day on EXP. But I think with this party specifically that this seed is leading you towards, you're going to need to do that full-on grind either way. So it really just does depend on which one you're going to have there.
And here we are. Pushwall is about to get the good news that there is a Palom up here. It's not going to make use for his defense sword that he found, but he's going to be happy to have a more useful character than Edward in the party for sure.
Absolutely, and Blue Cat now down through this Sylph Cave, gonna head back up, check those Sheila checks, find that rat tail. One thing that we haven't really mentioned yet is, again, I mean, we've mentioned the pink tail, but we haven't really talked about the effect that could have here. Where Pushwall has already turned in that rat tail, he has a bit less incentive to ever go turn in that pink tail if he thinks his gear is good. If there's something particularly exciting at that pink tail, I would say probably a weapon for edge at this point would be the ideal thing. That could be another thing that pushes Blue Cat a little bit further ahead.
Well, yeah, and especially Pushwall would have to go to Ordeals in order to even have that on the option to get that pink tail. So, yeah, we'll see. Definitely Blue Cat's going to check it because Blue Cat's going to check in that rat tail, and that's going to give the adamant, of course. And now Pushwall ready to take on, or Pushwall hasn't checked this yet, so isn't aware yet that there is Pale Dim in this spot. And I think for me, I'd want to grind before I do Pale Dim. I think that's a tough fight. But of course, he doesn't even know that. He just sees the sparkle. It's like, oh, I hope this is Wyvern so I can complete 2 objectives in 1. But going to be bad news for Pushwall here.
Yeah, and one thing worth noting too is that there are only 2 sparkles left in the seed at this point in time. So if we go to any of those checks that have visible bosses still and you see that sparkle, you know it's a 50-50 shot at that being that Wyvern. So that is got to be weighing heavily as well too. Like, now they know that they should just be looking for that last sparkle, because at very least it'll give really good information.
So that pink tail was a white shirt, a pretty decent gear, but it's not game breaking, I'd say. So I don't think that's a huge benefit for Blue Cat, but it is nice to have. Pushwall looks like going back to the blue planet. We're going to see if it's going to be eggs or the sealed cave. I think those are the 2 options here. And the flying leads me to believe this is grind time for Pushwall.
It definitely is, and then I really gotta expect that we're probably gonna see Luca Cave at that point in time, because it really is outside of that tower the only thing left in the underworld. Blue Cat's heading over there. He's gonna go ahead and check it right now. And just one more thing about that white shirt too is I feel like it's not as great of an option in the seed where you have a really fast anchor and you have like a heroine robe, and you might want to be able to use that to make that Rosa a bit faster as well, if you find like a life staff or something like that to offset. So it's kind of kind of a weird situation where that white shirt might not even be as valuable in the seed as it would be in other seeds, because as chat's mentioning, the pink tail is always a white shirt.
Yeah, but it looks like, well, Pushwall didn't loot the Cape Bahamut, so it doesn't even have the option of that heroine robe. So as far as like armor for Rosa, Blue Cat's got a lot more options. And I tend to agree. I think the heroine robe is probably going to be staying on Rosa, except maybe for the Zemus fight, where getting those Gear Force to fully heal the party becomes a lot more important.
Absolutely. Again, I think this is a situation where you really want to see a life staff somewhere so you can do both and still have those Cure 4s doing enough to keep your party up while still having that agility bonus. But we haven't seen one yet, so I gotta think, advantage Blue Cat on that one particular situation. But we are about to see what this Luca key item is here, and it looks like a Baron key.
Yeah, and that's one that you're probably going to walk out of, because that could be where the tower key is. There's 3 bosses in Baron, so another chance for that Wyvern. Also, the Legend Sword, if that's available in one of those at the key item spot in Baron, that's something good. So this isn't one that you're going to want to reset out of. You've got to go. And we'll see if this is the Wyvern, too, because that's also another possibility to look at. Oh, it is our other outstanding Lunar Sparkle in Ogopogo. So, yeah, looks like if we do see a Sparkle anywhere out, we know that is going to be the Wyvern.
That is a very interesting situation. Going to throw that defense sword. Probably going to see a lot of darting in this particular fight. And another thing that's worth noting about that Baron key is, it could also be that tower key, and that tower key could lead to that Legend Sword. So it could just be hard required too. So I don't think you could leave anything down there unless it's like a sand ruby or a spoon. Even then, a spoon. I mean, you can throw it at something if you want.
Yeah, Ogopogo.
I feel like if you're throwing the spoon at the Ogopogo in this situation, you might want to be rethinking whether or not to walk out that spoon.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. That's a good point, yeah.
That being said, I am totally the type of player who would be like, oh, well, now I have a spoon to take care of this Ogopogo with, so I might as well just keep walking this key item out here.
We see Pushwall in the grind using those assassin daggers, trying to proc swoons, and it's been working some of the time. That's a fun way to deal with this grind when you don't have the firepower to knock out the eggs in one shot. So that's kind of cool. Not something you see every day, but it's always fun when you do.
Absolutely. He's getting so much value out of those ninja stars. It's really kind of impressive, honestly. I've never really thought of ninja stars as being particularly worth it, but he's definitely doing a lot to prove me wrong here.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting stopgap when you don't have, like, if you didn't find the long swords. We found the ninja sword late, but when he purchased them, like, just relying on double assassin dagger is not what you really want to be doing with Edge. So having an alternative has been really interesting, and it's always good when we see strats that are just a little bit left of center to be showcased in something like this, because it's always good for the community when we see new strategies. And I won't say ninja stars are necessarily a new strategy. It's just not one that's particularly common in free enterprise.
Yeah, and that price drop did a ton, as Annadale just mentioned in chat. I don't remember exactly how much the drop was, but the increase in like Drain Spear price and the lowering of Ninja Star price kind of made like throwables, appealing to be thrown instead of regular weapons. So that is really one of those interesting little balance tweaks that, could really change things long term as people slowly start to adopt the new strategy around it.
Those assassin daggers really helping Pushwall get through this grind quite a bit faster. Been smart using a combination that these darting of the ninja stars seem to be a guaranteed kill, and if you can proc the swoon, that's another thing. So kind of going a little column A, column B, but been getting through this grind pretty quick. This is the really nice thing about the egg grind, is the fights tend to just go so fast.
I really like egg grind personally as like when I'm playing a seed, and the main reason is because egg grind is so much more relaxing to me than doing a D machine grind is like on the playing end. It's like a nice little break. It feels fast because they're going down so much quicker than those D machines where you have to weak them and then knock them over and then spawn a new one and all that. So that was pretty nice. But it looks like he's going to go ahead and use this last siren to steal a silk web from a centipede, which is another one of those fun new little wrinkles that people have started doing in this no J item flag.
Yeah, that's silk web is something that is really nice to have for the Zemus fight. And you really only need one in the inventory, but if you don't find one in a chest during your looting process, then this is a real heads-up play of using that final siren right here to do it. So we'll have that available. It will cast 2 stacks of slow on Zemus, which is very useful, as well as if you do it before the first Big Bang comes out, it'll effectively nerf that Big Bang by reducing the spell power. Very useful thing. We're seeing a different grind for Blue Cat, taking on some of these trap doors here while walking out of this cave. Unfortunately got a random encounter too, but these trapdoors are a pretty good source of experience if you can take them out quick enough.
And that is interesting. I have not seen a door grind in a hot minute in one of these races, and I'm always interested in seeing a door grind because it's one of those like really interesting to watch ones where you have to try and knock it down before it can take out one of your party members, or if you have the opportunity, try and drop a wall on them so it reflects that disrupt back at the door and takes it out. And so I wonder if he's going to try and do all of these, or if he's just doing like 1 or 2 to get a little bit of XP here.
Looks like he's doing a number of them. This is one of the things, the benefit of having that heroine robe means that he knows that Rose is going to act first in this fight. So she can be sitting there, see where the target is, and get that wall off before the disrupt. And so this is a very safe grind for Blue Cat. It's experience, and it doesn't take a ton of time. And it's not like a 2-pronged process that Pushwall took, where first you have to go into a fight in Babel and steal a bunch of sirens, and then do the grind later. You're doing it all in one, and it's a place that you just went to anyways. So you're going to walk out of it. So you're not using the warp spell to get out of it faster, but you're kind of doing 2 birds with 1 stone by grinding on your way out.
Absolutely, and it just really shows that level of foresight in terms of it, because, you know, I gotta feel like it wasn't one of those moments where he just spontaneously decided to do a door grind on the way back. I gotta think that he pretty much intended on doing this if it was a possibility of having to walk this out here. So that is really interesting to me that he would have thought that far ahead, and I'll be interested in asking about that in the interview, because I really am wondering, you know, how much forethought went into considering this door grind, knowing that he was going to have to check this Luca cave at some point in all likelihood.
That might have been part of the reason why he burned those sirens to help get Rosa up to the level where she learned wall. Because I think in situations where you've got access to that heroine robe and you've got Rosa, and you've got the Luca key, well, like it might have been in the back of his mind, like, this is something I can do if I get Luca key. So, because I know I would think about that if I've got a heroine robe Rosa in my team.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a grind. A grind is a grind, and the only thing that gives me a little bit of pause about it is I feel like the only thing that would make this a bit more appealing too is if you didn't have like a source of warp and you were going to have to walk out no matter what.
Yeah.
So there is that little bit of, not only is he doing these doors, but he also is going to have to walk this whole way instead of just doing the sort of warp on most of the screens except the ones that are quicker to walk through.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And I will say that, you know, with this squad, personally, I probably would have gone with the stealing sirens route that Pushwall did. But this is definitely something that I think of in general with Heroine Rogue Rosa. But with this setup, this wouldn't be my choice. But like, I definitely understand doing this and not having to go through the fight where you're stealing sirens too.
I think what it says to me as a possibility on Blue Cat's side is that he might not even necessarily go as far and might not get as many levels out of this, but maybe there's a chance he doesn't do all of these doors, gets enough levels that he thinks he's safe to take on the moon, and then does moon bosses for the rest of his XP. That is a possibility here. He might not even be going all the way with these doors.
Yeah, there's a lot of flexibility in that, choosing when you want to split the grind here on the doors as well. So yeah, we'll see that, because we know there's at least one boss on the moon that our runners are going to want to take, and that's that Pale Dim in the Bahamut spot. But Pushwall still maintaining that little bit of a lead here, as he's going to be the first one to go to Baron and check that spot.
He's going to be the first one to go to Baron, and if this ends up being, Wyvern and then either the Legend Sword or the Tower Key, that is go mode. So this seems like one of the highest value possible checks at this point with those 3 bosses left there. But again, there is still that little bit of a specter of Mount Ordeals kind of haunting the background of his seed right now. And, at what point when you've got most of these bosses out of the pool are those 3 bosses really, really tempting to you?
Yeah, that is the key. The 3 bosses, the fact that's on there, because I think if it wasn't for the boss hunt objective, Pushwall I think would be 100% fade Ordeals until the very, very end of the seed, and that still might be the plan. But with 3 bosses on there, that's really tough to pass up. But he did pass it up for a long time, and saving that time of doing Mount Ordeals, that's kind of about the difference in the time between the runners, I would say. It's pretty close to that.
Absolutely, and I think one thing that might change it too is it really just does depend on where Blue Cat ends up on levels after all of these doors. Because if he ends up behind, then it is kind of advantage Pushwall at this point in time. So we'll see what happens here.
Well, it looks like Blue Cat is doing quite a bit of, if not all of these trap doors. The levels seem to be pretty close to where Pushwall is, so I don't think it's going to be a huge level advantage, as we see Kainazzo in the vanilla spot there. Not going to be a problem for Pushwall at all. But yeah, it's really interesting as we're nearing the end of the seed. It looks like the levels are going to be pretty similar after the grinds.
Yeah, I guess another question on my mind, seeing this Kainazzo here sort of reminded me of it, is at what point do you say to yourself, well, a lot of the dangerous bosses are out of the pool at this point. I'm trying to think of what bosses that could pose a particular problem on the moon are left, and right now the only one I can think of is that Valvalis is still in the seed, possibly somewhere. And so because of that, there is that temptation to, okay, maybe I should check the moon because there's a lot of free stuff still out there. We haven't seen Water Hag, we haven't seen King and Queen, we haven't seen, well, I guess we have seen Baron Guards. I think they're hiding in Mist Cave. Yeah. But there's a lot of potential value in that moon. You know that Antlion's not on the moon today. He's down in the Feymart, so he's not going to be up there making your life miserable. That moon is looking pretty tempting too, so maybe with that pass in hand, Pushwall thinks, okay, I'm just going to go up to the moon, check all that, and then come back and never go to the moon again.
There's still 2 trolley spots on the blue planet that Wyvern could be headed in, and that is the package and the vanilla King Queen Evelyn spot, which I don't think are really on the radar. We also have access to the giant. There's 2 bosses in there. So that Wyvern hunt is there's still a lot of spots looming large over this seed as far as finding that boss up. I think looking for key items is going to be more important, and I think might be the thing that makes Pushwall go to the moon. Definitely going to check this boss in Baron where it's at. Going to probably reset of anything other than Wyvern here.
Well, maybe we see which one this is first. It is Water Hag, so there's one of those free bosses out of the pool. And I think one thing that's worth noting too, is you sort of touched on this a bit earlier, is at this point in time, if you're Pushwall, when do you decide if it is Ordeals? I've already lost.
You know, that might be a thing too, as Pushwall is now face-checking these bosses that we saw Blue Cat do early, and this should be those bearing guards that you just mentioned.
Absolutely. And I guess also sort of furthering that thing is, at what point in time, if you're Pushwall, do you think, okay, if Ordeals is required, then maybe I would have already seen a finish too. Maybe that comes a little bit later than right now. And it does look like he's headed over that way. Let's see which stop he goes for, and it looks like it is Ordeals time for him.
Ooh, that is unfortunate. This is giving Blue Cat a big shot of catching up here.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where it's like, this is a very smart play, but we also know that it is the wrong play for this seed. And, you know, at this point in time, it's gonna be real interesting to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, because in Pushwall's mind, the key item could be that tower key as well. It could be the Legend Sword. There's 3 possible boss locations. Yeah, it's gonna be real interesting once that goes through.
Absolutely. And while we're sort of seeing this bit of seed that we've already seen before at this point in time, I want to give a quick shout out, first of all, to both of our runners, to Blue Cat and Pushwall. Make sure you give them a follow. They're both absolutely excellent at this game, and they're putting on a wonderful show today. And also a quick shout out to our behind the scenes crew today too, to Scala Kitty on the restream and Alchemy on tracking. Both of them are also absolutely wonderful people, so make sure you give them a follow as well. And yeah, we're gonna see where this goes from here, because we are running out of Blue Planet at this point in time, and I think we're actually about to hit the point where that moon is completely hard required now, because I don't believe there are any checks left outside of maybe checking for bosses at those couple of little troll locations still left down here. I don't think that we'll see either one of those happen, but it is surely possible at this point in time. The other question is, who's going to end out ahead if they have to go to the moon right now? And that is going to be one of those things where I think Blue Cat's probably come out a little bit ahead based off of where they are at the moment, depending on whether or not Pushwall sees this boss, sees this pink tail, and says, I don't need this, and just leaves. Yep, and he does. So it looks like Pushwall might maintain a little bit of a lead here over Blue Cat, as we are going to be heading to the moon here very, very shortly. And with that, that is going to lead to the big question of the day in terms of what you do if you are Pushwall in this situation, or if you are Blue Cat in this situation. Do you go and just go ahead and finish that Cave Bahamut objective first? Or do you go ahead and start diving that moon, knowing you need to find a key item no matter what, knowing you need to find either 2 key items or a boss at this point? It does look like Pushwall is going to head over to Cave Bahamut first, which I think is definitely going to be the more likely thing from both of them, but it is possible that one of them just decides to start diving this moon first, which will lead to the secondary question, top-down or bottom-up moon at that point.
I think the key items are probably going to be the ones that they're looking for. I don't know, maybe, in which case I go bottom-up, but if they're really got tunnel vision on that wyvern hunt, then top down might be the way to go. But both of them going into the Cave Bahamut, and it's really close now after that Pushwall went up to Mount Ordeals. That kind of gave up a lot of the lead, and this is a real close race now between Blue Cat and Pushwall.
And I think that really says a lot about some of these seeds too, is that on the one hand, the seeds where you get that bit of divergence and then one of them pays off, the other doesn't, the sort of like almost casino effect of that is really fun to watch. But I know that I personally always have a lot of fun watching these seeds where they've exhausted every opportunity. They're going to end up in the same place at the same time, and it really just is down to that pressure cooker of who can execute better for the rest of the seed from here.
Blue Cat remembering to turn the random encounters off. No doors in this place, but there are Bahamut's, which will be forced encounters if you have encounters on, as well as the regular random encounters, which are runnable in here. But those behemoths are the ones that you don't want to accidentally trigger if you don't want to.
Absolutely. I mean, they're great XP, but at this point, we've got a Yang at 4,800 HP on Pushwall's side, 4,500 HP on Blue Cat's side. They're going to be fine with that. And an Avenger that you can't really use, so that's going to get thrown into someone's face here shortly.
Yeah, that just getting so many good weapons for Kane and Cecil throughout this seed, and it's just, yep, of course, you get a White Spear, Defense Sword, Avenger, there's no Kane to be found.
Yeah, in this case, Kane and Cecil are the name of Edge's two hands to throw the weapons into whatever boss he finds from that point onwards, so we are about to see Pushwall starting to descend into the subterrain here. The big question is, does he go top down or bottom up? And does Blue Cat follow the same path? If they go the different path, it's going to be all down to who finds what first.
Yeah, and so that is objective number 2 completed for Pushwall. So only 2 more objectives to go. I say only, but that's like, at this point into a seed, having 2 more objectives to go, I think that's a bit of a rarity. Usually you're just looking for the last thing, but there's still 2 things that our runners have to find.
This is one of those seeds where the start, nothing, it feels like nothing, quote unquote, happened aside from that one objective. But all those objectives are going to fall really quickly here. There's not very many places left for Wyvern. Speaking of which, hey, hello.
Well, that top-down plan definitely worked for Pushwall.
Well, here is the big question. If you're Blue Cat, what do you decide to go for? Do you go for that bottom-up, hoping for the key items or not? Because if he goes for key items, I mean, you still need a key item for this, but at the same time, it's scary.
Yeah, finding one of the 3 things that you need here. Possibly 2, because we'll see. This doesn't look like it's going to be a too difficult fight for Pushwall at these levels. But yeah, we'll see what happens here.
Absolutely, and the Witchburn, of course, ending up being, I think, float in this one, which is interesting. I don't know why a dragon with large wings needs to be able to float, but yeah, I guess that works.
Sometimes your wings get tired.
It's like CPU, where it's not flying, it's floating.
Another defense sword, given by the Doom Breath of this randomizer Wyvern here. So only 1 more objective required for Pushwall. Yeah, and I think as we're going through this, I don't think we've done this yet, so I just want to shout out our restream team today. Scala Kitty doing the restreaming and Alchemy on the tracking. So without them, we don't have a show. So big love for them.
Absolutely, and it does look like Blue Cat is just going to follow in Pushwall's footsteps, and it's one of those things where we know that this is a required fight, quote unquote, because of that objective, but here's the thing, is this actually the right play on Blue Cat's side if he's already behind Pushwall? I think it depends on how key items are laid out. Like, let's say both of them are in the ribbon room and that ribbon room is hard required and Blue Cat had gone bottom up, then, this Wyvern fight it doesn't matter because it was not ever going to be necessary in that case. So a lot is riding on where these key items are.
Yeah, that's true, but at the same time, you're never going to turn down an objective. I don't know, like, my gut instinct is almost always to go bottom up with the lunar subterrain, but I think they both got rewarded by finding that Wyvern there.
Absolutely, and I think the big question is, there's still a couple little decision branches here. There's sometimes when you see a runner go top down, they'll branch off and they'll do the crystal sword second, Pushwall has decided to go down and check the Ribbon Room and White Spear altars instead, so if Blue Cat goes for that Crystal Sword, there's another possible divergence, but other than that, that's really the only divergence left. And the other divergence is, do you reset out of this Golbez in the Ribbon Room and just decide, you know what, I'm going to go do literally anything else instead?
Well, I like this play here. Like, you definitely reset out of it, but definitely looks like the intention is to do the Golbez fight, as the status effects on the characters mean that they want that whole guess to miss.
Absolutely, and I just want to point out that one of my absolute favorite things about this game is watching little running pig sprites, so I always love when they do this strat, because just those little legs, they go so fast.
But this is still a long fight. Like, I think the odds with the 2 key items in this room is why Pushwall does it, but I could understand resetting out and doing the other lunar subterranean checks, or at least the bottom ones, like maybe the Mazamune altar and the other one. But it looks like Blue Cat is heading to that Crystal Sword altar, so we do have some divergence here. This could be one, or even both of them may pay off, since there's 2 key items that we could use with either the Legend Sword or the Tower Key needed for Go Mode.
Absolutely. This is a tense moment here, because this Golbez fight, no matter what, is always going to take quite a while, because he has a lot of cutscene to get through. And
this is a high HP spot too. Oh, Valvalus. I don't know, like, I'm not one who has memorized all of Valvalus's locations, which ones are good and which ones are bad, but this is where we're at. Darting is almost always good against Valvalus, so...
Yeah, I think we have enough things to dart with the edge that you could probably get through this anyways, but no matter what, you're going to have an annoying fight on both sides. There's the white failing. This is a no on magic. Blue Cat going to decide, you know what, this is not a fight that I can or want to take at this point, and it looks like he is going to just go ahead and walk back down to those other spots instead.
That is unfortunate for Blue Cat, because this means that Pushwall is still in the driver's seat. That was a spot that could have been another place for Blue Cat to really catch up, if that was one of those 2 key items that we need right now. So the other thing is, if Blue Cat checks the Plague Room before the Ribbon Room, that's another place, because this Golbez fight is definitely taking Pushwall some time.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised.
Sorry, go ahead.
I wouldn't be surprised if Blue Cat face checks, but no, going to that White Spear altar. So this is, again, a little bit of divergence. We'll see what happens here.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wouldn't be surprised too. Oh, hey, how about other bosses you don't want to see?
Wow. This is an annoying lunar subterranean. That is for sure.
Remember, like, a few minutes ago when I said that there's, like, not too many things up on the moon that could be a problem? Yeah, no, the moon is dedicated to proving me wrong today, so good job, viewers. Hope you enjoyed the show.
No key items in the Golbez room. Blue Cat is going to be the first to check the Mazamune altar. Oh, this is fascinating now.
Absolutely, and I gotta think this... There can't be many fights left that are problems here. Well, we've seen Baigan, we've seen Antlion, we've seen pretty much everything that really scares me here. Maybe Leviathan, I think, is left. Yeah, hey!
You were right, the Leviathan was left, but Leviathan is not nearly as scary as those other ones, so not a surprise that Blue Cat taking this. We'll see if Pushwall has the endurance to go through the alt gauntlet after that Golbez fight. Nope, that is a quick reset. Not a surprise.
And that's kind of interesting, because I feel like this is a party that's really, really set up to take on that gauntlet if you wanted to try and sneak through it, thinking your opponent might not go through. So that could be something that would be considered. I mean, what's your choice? Magic immune Val when you've got this party, or an alt gauntlet in the White Spear altar room? Personally, I gotta think that White Spear altar is actually looking a bit more tempting of the two.
With 2 key items left, I think you check this Leviathan before committing to alt gauntlet, but I think the Alt Gauntlet is definitely easier than the Valveless, but probably longer. So yeah, we'll see. That Alt Gauntlet always takes time. We saw Pushwall was able to not be scared of the time commit Galvez, but after that yields nothing, I wonder if Pushwall's like, I just wasted so much time. I gotta do here. We'll see if this pays off with Blue Cat. Otherwise, this is gonna be something spicy.
Absolutely, it is the tower key.
Tower key.
Blue Cat not committing to that Golbez fight has put him in the lead now, as that is go mode, as now we just need to go down, get that super cannon room, which is basically one of the easiest, if not the easiest boss spot in the game, and just take it from there. We are just going to exit out with Rosa, and that is the end of the seed from here, is just go down, check that spot, go to Troya, that's it.
Yeah, this is still really close. It could be anyone's, but Pushwall had a pretty sizable lead through a lot of the mid part of this seed, but a couple of things, the going back to Mount Ordeals, which he had faded earlier, cost him a considerable amount of time, and that Galvez fight was really long. If it paid off, it would have been great for Pushwall, but it didn't. So that allowed Blue Cat to get right back in it, and now has a slight lead. This is an exciting thing. Blue Cat, if he wins this, he moves on to the round of 8. So this could be huge for Blue Cat.
Yeah, and I think it really just does come down to really that lead that Pushwall has was just the time that Blue Cat had spent in Mount Ordeals. And again, just going back for it, it was a good play, but it just wasn't the right play here.
Yeah, and the rest of this seed is going to be watching both of our runners do basically the exact same things one after another. Head right to the tower, right to the super cannon room, defeat the boss that's in there, which is not going to be difficult, and then walk on out, head to Zemus.
Yeah, and we sort of touched on this earlier, but it's probably worth bringing up again now, is that we talk a lot about agility anchoring in these seeds, and as we see this vanilla Dark Imps here, now's a good time to mention that the biggest part of agility anchoring, and the reason why we talk about it more than anything else out of every fight, is that Zeromus fight. And Edge Hero on a Zeromus fight is always going to be a little bit of an odd duck in terms of what you're actually doing. So I think this could still go either way, because this Zeromus fight is not guaranteed for either runner here.
Without a doubt. The levels help a lot. We see on Pushwall's side, Yang have 5,500 HP. I think you've got a bit of a buffer, even if the agility isn't perfect. I think we've got enough power to kind of overwhelm that here.
Absolutely.
There we are.
It just comes down to whether or not it's one of those Zeromuses that's really just taking a turn every couple seconds here.
Yeah. But they've got a little bit of wiggle room with some of their equipment that they found with the ninja hat, with the cat claws that Pushwall bought. So we've got things that can help get to the point of agility that's going to be better. We'll see how long they study it to, or if they just go in, if they already know their situation. We'll see what happens and how nasty those Zeromus turns come in as well.
I guess we do also have one more question before we get to, of course, the usual question, which is, if this ends up being Legend Sword and you only have ninja swords on that edge, are you tempted to forge with that Supersmith from the Sea Hero flag?
I don't know if I'd want to take the time. Luckily, it's a moot point. It's just the Sand Ruby, so the runners don't need to worry about that question. But I would think, with how long it's been to find that those last couple objectives, I think both of them are just going to be beelining it to Toria, even if that was the Legend Sword.
Absolutely.
Here we are.
We're just one short walk away, and they are both. I feel like Pushwall's actually closed the gap a little bit on this flight to Troya here.
It is really close, as they're both of our runners entering in the final fight. We see a little bit of equipment switcheroos here, getting things where they want, and we see a little check of the agility there. Trying to get exactly what you want. That bandana instead of the ninja, taking off the assassin dagger to reduce the agility a little bit more. Yeah. Like Pushwall is studying it and making sure everything. It looked like Blue Cat was a little bit, might know it beforehand or might be just YOLOing it too. So it's kind of interesting to see that at the end. But yeah, you said there's a second question. You want to ask that, Jens?
Absolutely. So I'm going to quickly speed run this explanation for those of you who haven't seen it at home before. We have over 520 different sprites that can be at this Zeroma spot because we can't move Zeromus. He's too mean, too hard, too difficult. Anywhere else he would be too much of a pain. So instead we change his appearance when we throw the crystal and ask the most important question of the seed: whose butt are we going to kick today?
Absolutely, because it is butt time. And once this crystal goes through, we will see what the butt is. And Pushwall just a few moments behind Blue Cat. This is going to be a photo finish. I know that there are some trolls in the chat who are always going to want to find these ties, but in any case, I think this is going to be exciting to see how it ends.
Oh, it's you, Yevon, from Final Fantasy X. That's a blast from the past.
Yeah, so that means you want to use all your summons in this fight, right?
I mean, you have to, so that he can possess them one by one. I'm trying to count here as I'm watching Pushwall find this crystal, throw it out here, just so I can get an idea of how far apart these runners are at this point in time, and it looks like there's going to be about a 50-second difference from the time the crystal animation started on both sides. So Blue Cat with that bit of an advantage, and Pushwall got to be that 50 seconds faster from here.
Pushwall does have a little bit of a level advantage as well. Not like a huge one. They're both very high level right now. But a little bit of an edge in the levels goes to Pushwall.
Absolutely, and also we might remember, as chat's sort of mentioning here, going way back to when they were doing those grinds, Blue Cat did the wall grind, did not steal sirens, meaning he also did not take a siren to go steal that silk web that Pushwall's about to throw here, which could make a huge difference because, again, edge really throws off your agility in this fight. So that could be another deciding factor here, and we'll see how that plays into it as we are really getting this fight underway on both sides right now.
Yeah, this is going to be a fascinating finish here. As we see that counter nuke, meaning that first Big Bang is going to be nerfed. Not that you're going to need to nerf everything here. And here we see the Reflected Ice 3. Leveling up Rydia to the point where she learns nuke is very difficult. But third level elementals can do a significant amount of damage against Zemus as well. And so that could be a way to do it as quite a bit. We see that Bacchus being used now on Yang. So this is definitely a hybrid strat. We're also seeing everything being darted from edge. Love to see it.
Absolutely, but over on Blue Cat's side, that Big Bang did knock Palom down, so gonna have to spend some time reviving him. I don't know who the wall is on over on Blue Cat's side, but it looks like he's gonna have to cast another one. I believe it might have been on that Palom, which is another deeply unfortunate thing and another great opportunity for Pushwall to make up a little bit of time in this fight right now.
Yeah, without a doubt. Sometimes that timing, and that's one of the things that Silk Web might have helped Pushwall on, but having that counter nuke hit somebody, like you wanted that counter nuke to hit Yang because he's got such a huge HP pool that it really doesn't matter. But anybody else, there's that chance of the counter nuke plus the Big Bang even being nerfed can take out somebody like Palom there.
Absolutely, and just one character going down is such a damage loss right now on both sides, unless it's Yang, probably is not as much of a damage loss. He just doesn't do quite as much right now as everyone else does. But one thing worth noting is we're about to see another Big Bang over on Blue Cat's side, is that Rydia only has 1,600 health. She might fall to any Big Bang, just depending on how the roll goes. There is another one with 300 health left.
Wow, that is close. But that Cure 4 not any help, so you might have to take a turn. Either you just commit to the berserking and the nuke or two that you get left on it, but the black hole comes out, meaning that we'll have to re-up a wall on Blue Cat's side. I think Pushwall's in a lead now.
Absolutely. It's just a question of how much into that 50 seconds is Pushwall going to make up, and I'm tempted to say that he probably has it at this point, but again, this race could go to anything. That counter nuke going on to that Rydia again, unless that was her own nuke on herself. I did not quite catch which one that was, but it does look like Blue Cat is just going to go ahead and commit to just berserking his two physical characters here and just saying, you know what, hybrid strats are over. We're a half a berserk team now.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. Like, Blue Cat doesn't know that he's dead even with Pushwall at this point. Audibling to this strategy at this point in the fight makes a lot of sense, like, just in general. In this race situation, I don't think it's going to end up paying off for Blue Cat, though, unless something really bad goes down on Pushwall's side.
Which it could. This Big Bang coming out, Rydia at 1300, Palom at 1400, Rosa at 1900. All three of those in danger here. And it looks like, all
brutal.
three do fall there.
That is brutal on Pushwall's side. But there's the crumble.
And we do want to mention there was that little bit of a difference in timer there is because we did do that little bit of a sync up at the start of the stream there to make sure that they were properly synced. So you did see that little bit of a jump, time of 1:38.31 on Pushwall's side.
Yeah, and forcing a game 3 in this, and this was a close one. A real close finish at the end as we see Meteor phase over on Blue Cat's screen. So just about to finish this with less than 10,000 HP left. And there's the crumble, 139.13 for Blue Cat. Just like less than a minute difference between the two. What a race.
I hope you all are excited for a game 3 here, because given this was game 2, given how this seed went, that game 3 is going to be an absolutely wonderful watch. And I believe we are joined by Pushwall at the moment. GG's today.
Hello.
Hello, GG on your win today.
Thanks.
So, what were your thoughts on the seed today? Because that was a very, very interesting race for both of you to have run.
I really have no idea what to say about it. Thanks for the good music. Well, good Czech music. I don't even know what the song is.
That was the Play Online theme for when you're loading up Final Fantasy XI, basically. So to sort of go back a little bit, you left Mount Ordeals for quite a while. Were you at all tempted to just sort of leave it and head to the moon at any point, or did you just say, you know what, I really need to finish everything down here on the planet before I go up to the moon?
Good question. When I was left with just Ordeals and Luca, that was on the cards, just going to the moon, but I was wondering, like, okay, there are 3 boss checks there, and I am searching for Wyvern.
Yeah, that was kind of our thought process. Like we knew, because we saw Blue Cat do Ordeals quite early in the seed, that it wasn't going to pay off. And at that time, you had an advantage in time, well, just a little bit more than the time it took you to go through Ordeals. Like, after that, you were pretty much neck and neck. So were there, you got started with Edge and Rydia. What do you think about that duo of characters to start a seed like this?
Extremely powerful, especially when you get Leviathan that quickly too.
Yeah, definitely. And you did a really good job of, leveraging that early power. It's one of those things we were commenting on throughout the seed, is that you did a lot of that early looting. You got a lot of really good things out of it, and you really showed what you can do with those. So it was really, really impressive to watch you making your way through all of those various early checks with what you had on hand.
And piggybacking off that, one thing that I'd like to ask about, because we were, it wasn't something that we were used to seeing as often, but it was really fun to see, was you picking up that stack of ninja stars. Is that something that you're usually looking for when you've got Edge in your party, or why don't you walk us through that decision?
When I have Edge early, or I just can't find any good weapons for him, that is a definite thing to search for. Usually 2 to 3 times as powerful as attacking.
Yeah, definitely. And it was nice to see someone, you know, really incorporating those ninja stars with the lower price in this version of the randomizer too. I haven't really seen anyone really using those quite as much there, and it was really, really interesting to see what you can do with them.
And so with this, you do force a game 3 with Blue Cat. What are your thoughts of this event so far, and where you're at in the brackets right now?
He's a fierce opponent just as much as everyone before me. I can't really give him an inch.
I definitely see that. Like everybody I think who's left in this event are just pure sharks. Like we've got a very high caliber of runners in this top 16 right now, for sure. So did you have any final thoughts before we let you go today?
Nope.
All right, well then, GG's again, and thanks for letting us watch your race, and good luck in the next race. I know both of you are going to feel like you need it.
Absolutely.
All right, well, thanks again for joining us. We're going to see if we can get Blue Cat in for his interview now. Again, you know, less than a minute. What a race today. And I believe we are joined by Blue Cat Loach, going to be going to a game 3. First of all, GG's on a very, very tight, very exciting race today.
Yeah, thank you.
So, what were your thoughts on the seed just as a whole and how this race went for you?
That was certainly one of the fastest 16 to 17 seeds I've ever gone through.
I mean, when it came down to the end, there was like just so much tension, but entering the lunar subterrain, still needing 2 objectives after doing basically everything else. That doesn't happen too often in these seeds, does it?
No, it sure doesn't. And I was just terrified that he'd kind of already gone up to the moon and done everything there after I just finished like pretty much clearing everything on the overworld. That sort of drove my decision to go top-down moon instead of bottom-up, because I'm like, well, if he's already there, then I got to start at the top and kind of hope that I cut him off.
It was funny because Eth was talking about, before either of you had gone into the lunar subterranean, about how, oh, there's a lot of really easy bosses left, and then we see, oh god, we see Valvalis, we see Golbez, like, actually there's a lot of really hard bosses still up there, aren't there?
Yeah, it was just nope, and thank goodness easy one at Ogopogo.
Yeah, it was actually interesting because you actually were a bit ahead at that point coming out of there, because what had happened was Pushwall had gone through that Golbez fight, and you skipping over that, it actually leapfrogged you, and then the Z fight sort of leapfrogged it back. But going back a ways before that, a very interesting question that I have for you here. Why doors?
It was just kind of an opportunistic thing. Like, I just finished Sealed Cave, and Rosa learned Wall. I had the heroine robe, so it's like, it's just kind of an accessible option.
Yeah, it was neat to see, like, there were so many, like I would say minor, but, like, there were differences between your run, but at the same time, like you were following very similar paths too. I think watching this one back would be really fascinating to see the difference between the two of you and also the similarities, because I think this was a really interesting race all around from both of you.
Thank you.
Did you have any final thoughts before we let you go today?
I think Game 3 is probably going to be an interesting one too. Don't be fooled for 1 second by that 33rd seed. He's a pretty darn good runner.
Yeah, I think
you've both had very difficult paths to get to this point in this tournament, and it's been an absolute blast watching both of you get to this point, really. I mean, you've really both demonstrated that you can't take anything for granted in these tournaments anymore. Everyone is just so good at this game at this point.
Thank you very much.
And so, GG's once again, thank you for joining us, and thank you for letting us watch your race today. As Em said, I agree, it was a blast.
Thank you.
All right, that was our runner-up, Blue Cat Loach. Right now, we are going to go ahead and send you on over to Pancraz, who's doing some garbage seeds. So show him a bit of love, and just want to say thank you once again to our Restream team, Scala Kitty on the Restream, Alchemy pushing the buttons, and my co-commentator Enz. It was really fun calling the race with you today.
Thank you very much, and it was a great time with you as well. So again, thank you for joining us. And remember, when we get over to Pancraz's end, no spoilers for today's race, because this is definitely one that people are going to want to watch back later if they didn't get a chance to see it.
For sure. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you again real soon.